What's going on, YouTube? This is the SG1 Sports SEC football channel, and we're going to quickly break down Vanderbilt's 2019 recruiting class. Not really giving you much information on these players in this video, just showing you what positions they added, and we'll talk about what they needed and whether or not they filled the positions that they needed, and just kind of an overlook at this recruiting class based off of 24/7 Sports recruiting ratings. So yes, Vanderbilt finished 58th in recruiting, which is really a disappointment after the season that they had last year. They went to a bowl game, and they are way behind everyone else in the SEC. So let's look at this recruiting class. They had 5 players that enrolled early, a 3-star cornerback, 3-star defensive tackle, Jamil Muhammad, who is listed as possibly playing a quarterback position, but he is an athlete, so we'll see. And then they added a 3-star corner and a 3-star defensive tackle. They did not add a single 4-star in this recruiting class, which again is a disappointment in my opinion. They added a couple of safeties, an athlete who I believe is going to be playing wide receiver, but don't know that for sure. You guys can let me know. Added another receiver, and then Keon Brooks, a 3-star running back. Once again, all 3 stars, no 4 stars in this class for Vanderbilt. And then they also added a 3-star offensive tackle, defensive end, tight end, cornerback, offensive tackle. And yeah, some of these 3 stars are probably going to be really good players, but it still would have been better, I think, to get a little bit more talent. And these recruiting ratings aren't perfect, but they do give us a pretty good idea of how good these players are going to be. Also added an offensive guard, defensive end, offensive tackle, another athlete who I think is going to be playing running back, a tight end, and then a punter. So that's the recruiting class for Vanderbilt. Again, it's not like they get 5-star recruits, but I just thought that this was a disappointment after the season that they had last year. So let's talk about the offense first and what they needed there. I thought, they could have used a little bit of help immediately on the offensive line to add some depth there, but long term, nothing really jumped out at me. You'd like to just continue to add some depth at every position, really, and that's what they did. They kind of spread it around, added a quarterback who again was listed as an athlete, so we'll see. They added Riley Neal, who is a big pickup for them, and I think will be the starter this year as a transfer, so that's good news. I think they added 4 transfers, so they did help their roster a little bit there. Added a couple of running backs, a couple of receivers, a couple of tight ends, and then 4 players on the offensive line. So again, they didn't really need a whole lot on offense. I thought the offensive line could use a little bit of a boost in depth. So they added 4 there. So that's pretty solid. But again, there's nobody that I look at on this recruiting class and I'm going to say, wow, that's a difference maker. That kid's going to be really good. And some of them probably will. But looking at it right now, you're talking about 3-star players. Which ones are gonna be that guy, the next starter, the next quarterback, the next running back? Vanderbilt's had a lot of success at the running back position. Right now they got Keyshawn Vaughn. He was a transfer, so perhaps that's how they get their big name players, is they get them through transfers, and it's a formula that has worked okay. But Vanderbilt still, to me, is a little bit behind everyone else in the SEC. Offensively, we're gonna give them a C because, again, they didn't really get a guy that I think is going to be a difference maker for them, but they did okay. I mean, they did add some depth at every position, so that's good news. So not a horrible job, but I still think they could have done a little bit better. We go to the defensive side, and this is where they needed a lot of help. I thought they could use a lot of help immediately to add depth on this defense. They lost a lot off of last year's team. Long term, I think they just kind of they needed to add players everywhere. And as you can see, they did not do that. They did not add a single linebacker. Sometimes the defensive ends from high school can move to linebacker, and we'll see if that happens in this case. But they just didn't add a whole lot, in my opinion, on defense. You're talking about adding 9 players. Yeah, it's only 9 players from a defense that really lost a lot from last year. They really needed to build some depth there. I know they have some young players. They're going to be extremely young on defense this year. I mean, extremely young. Not going to have a whole lot of upperclassmen on that defense. They haven't released a depth chart yet, but it's looking like they're only going to have probably a couple of seniors on defense. They're going to be starting a bunch of sophomores. So it's going to be a young defense. They could have used some players to come in and maybe make an impact right away, and perhaps some of these players will. Again, this is Vanderbilt. They have done a pretty good job with these 3-star players in the past, and the recruiting ratings don't tell the whole story. Everyone knows that. But again, I don't have time to evaluate all these players, and all we can do for this video is give you what their rating is on 24/7 Sports, and that's what we use for all of these ratings. So I think they could have done much better on defense. Just could have added more players. They only added 21 total players in this class, and I get it. They did add some transfers. They added a quarterback in Riley Neal, who I think could really help them out. And again, I think he's going to be the starter. And then they added a defensive tackle. That's actually all they added. They only added one transfer on defense, added an offensive lineman and a receiver as well. So I think this could be an area of concern. Depth, perhaps they'll wear down during games. We'll see. Perhaps they have more young guys that are ready to step up that I don't know about. But to me, I thought they dropped the ball a little bit on defense. So I'm going to give them a D for this side of the ball. Just not enough depth and no real difference makers, in my opinion, on this side of the ball. And again, that's just my opinion. You guys can let me know your opinion down in the comments below. I know a lot of you, if you're a Vanderbilt fan, you follow the recruiting, you follow this team a lot closer than I can. I'm trying to cover all the teams in college football, so I can't go as in depth with every single team as a fan would do. So any insights you guys have, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. I learn things from you all of the time, and I greatly appreciate it. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports SEC Football Channel.